Hi, I'm Joshua Finn from J&H Aerospace, and this is the build video for the J&H Aerospace Elastic Launch Glider Launcher. This is for the 2019-2020 Science Olympiad season. So hopefully the rules will remain and we'll be able to keep this style of launchers in the future, but that's just for your reference. Now, a few things before we get started that you need to know about. If you're just building the straight launcher like this, any glider from another manufacturer can be used on this launcher. If you're building out the advanced version, which uses the wing trigger assembly, you're going to have to equip your gliders with a bumper on the bottom. And I recommend a carbon fiber one. I've tried wooden ones and they shed pieces over time, which is how you get disqualified in competition. So just know that in advance that you need a bumper on other manufacturers' gliders to keep them from being damaged in the launching process. So with that, we'll get started with the build and we'll get some parts out. Okay, so to get started with the build, these are the parts you're going to have. So you're going to have a sheet of thick balsa, 3/16 balsa for your handle assemblies here. You're going to have a sheet of 1/8 balsa for your top assemblies, and please note these parts you will not have if you're just ordering the regular launcher without the wing trigger the trigger launch assembly. And then you'll have a set of plywood parts. And if you have, again, if you've ordered just the non-trigger type assembly, you'll only have these two protractors and these two mounts for them. Additionally, you have a piece of carbon fiber rod, you'll have a 1/4 inch dowel, a piece of rubber for your catapult. By the way, these two parts are again for the trigger launched assembly. You will have a set of wing nuts and bolts, and then again for the trigger launch assembly you'll have a set of binder clips. So to get started, notice we have not mentioned the actual launch rail itself. The reason for that is you have to supply this component. We do not include this. You need to buy one. This one's about 3/16 of an inch thick. Available, this one's a Lowe's brand. I've got Walmart and Home Depot and whatnot. They're all basically about the same. As long as it's wood, you should be good to go. Even if it's not wood, there are workarounds, but the main thing is to mount your rubber band for your catapult up front, you do want wood so you can bond to it reliably. So let's get started with all that. First thing we'll do is pull our 3/16 inch sheet parts here. Alright, so we've got this little guy out, and we'll go ahead and pop the other parts out here as well. Excuse the noise making. Alright, so first of all, we'll take this semicircular piece, and you're going to pick one end of your launcher, and this is going to be your launching end. And we're going to stick that guy right there. Like that. Okay, dead center. We'll wait until that dries, we'll come back to it in a minute. In the meantime, go ahead and pop out our protractor mounts. And we're just going to slot those in this piece right here. And that's all there is to it. Now, if you're building the non-trigger launched version, you'll simply go, so remember this is the bottom, that semicircle goes in the bottom. You can go back here to the back end. You can put your protractor mounts back here. If you're doing the trigger launched one, you can actually leave this and just clip it with a binder clip underneath your rear guide back here, and you're good to go. And that actually lets you break this guy down for storage. So I'm not going to glue it down just because I do want the freedom to take it off for storage. Notice that these little guys have all their little numbers and whatnot. You can put these on either side. It does not really matter. Just bear in mind they're going to be kind of, I don't know what I was going to say. But anyway, slot a wing nut, a screw and a wing nut through here. And lock each one down. And then we'll do the same thing with the other one. And again, it's whichever side you want this in. And then pick whichever side you want it to be. And I actually recommend the backs. Actually, no, I don't. Never mind. What was I thinking? I don't know. You're going to take your little bubble levels, and I recommend glue them somewhat off to the side. And actually, in the case of this one, if you keep it facing forward, mount your little bubble level right here. It'd be better off that way. And then you can do the same thing over here with this one. Stop gluing to me. You're supposed to glue onto the launcher. There we go. And then tighten that down. We'll go ahead and clip this on. Actually, we want to clip it from that side. Now you've got your bubble leveling assembly here. Something like that. I can't see the bubble from this side, but yeah, there we go. And with that, you're good to go on your, I guess you'd say, aiming system. Alright, so next thing up, now orientation of parts becomes important. If you're not using the trigger launched assembly, it's actually not. You just slot this in whichever way you want to. And so I'll go ahead and show that. But for the purposes of the trigger launched assembly, this is the top. So you want this guy facing forward on the right. So we've got that in there. Again, if you're not doing the trigger launched assembly, just find a convenient place along the length here and glue it in place. And once you do that, you're done. But we're going to continue on with the rest of the assembly here. So what you're going to want to do next is pop these two little guys out. Now your dowel should fit fairly smoothly through there. Has a little bit of play. So at this point, we now can install the trigger. So you want to leave about that much exposed. So what I'm going to do, I know how much of that I wanted. Now we're going to set that part aside to dry for a little bit while we assemble some other components. So next thing we'll do is pop out this little part. And you've got 2 plywood guides here. If you can't tell, this is an early prototype. The plywood is not cut real well. If you get a kit that has that pour cutting in it, let me know and I will happily replace your plywood. Now, this one has the long slot. You have an arrow facing forward. The one with the long slot goes on the right. And that's very important. I'm going to go get a piece of sandpaper real quick. So, just in case any part of your glider brushes something on here, you want this part to be rounded off real nice. And so then we can slot it in, and again, it goes on the right side here when you're looking forward. We will pop out the other piece. I'll go off camera while I remove that. Alright, so we'll slot this other guy in here. And again, this is the one that's got the little hole. And so it goes on the left side. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our sear, which is a little bitty piece here, right here. This pointy bit goes forward, and so it drops down into that tiny little notch, just like that. And again, the little pointy bit goes on the front, looking forward. And there we go. Now at this point, your little carbon rod can slide through here. And what you'll want to do is put some masking tape on either side so this can't slip out. I'll go get some masking. Okay, so take that little carbon fiber bit and put a little masking tape flag here on one side of it. Slide it through. And put one on the other side. It's purely so we can keep that part from falling out. And the way this works is the rubber band is going to go over the front, and you're going to have your trigger assembly come up and lift it off of the little holder. So we'll set that aside for a minute. Actually, no, we won't. What we're going to do is we're going to clip this in place, and we're going to clip this mechanism on the bottom, slide them all the way over to the left side here. And it's important that these go together. So once you do that, put them in place with your binder clip like that. Now, slide your trigger assembly through. Now we will set this down for a minute while we get this last remaining part out. And so slide this over so there's just a little bit of play in there. And now, with your trigger slightly swept forward, you should be able to press this carbon rod down, and that's the position that you want, relating this riser to the trigger assembly. You want to hit this with a little bit of CA accelerator. The big thing is don't let any glue get back in here. I'm using medium CA to keep that from happening. Okay, so with the glue on that hardened up, we'll go and we'll assemble the remaining component in this system, which is this little guy. On this one as well, the swept part kind of goes forward. You can actually do it either way, but that's the way I'm running with here. Actually, I'm going to change that because I want to do it slightly differently for the sake of a usage case with one of our super protege gliders. Never mind. We can assemble this either way, and then I can show you afterwards. The reason why I'm mentioning that is there's two different catch scenarios that this is relevant for. So here's where things get a little bit interesting. Once you get your rubber set up, you're going to want to kind of measure back here, and you want to verify where the guide bumper on the tail of your airplane is. That is where you are going to position the high point here. Now, in practice, and the reason we don't glue any of this down, we are going to have to slide that back and forth to compensate for when we move this back and forth to set our tension for launch. Now, before we talk any further about that, let's go ahead and take and cut a piece of rubber here. I'm going to get about a 6-inch loop of rubber, and we'll go with that. And what I'm going to recommend you do is cut the rubber, thread it through this eyelet on the front, and then tie it. This way, there's no possible way that your rubber can come off. Now, in your notes, it is very important that you record the thickness of this rubber and the length of it after you tie this knot, because if the rubber wears out, which it will, you're going to want to be able to replace it with an identical piece of rubber so that your length of pull and whatnot remain the same. Now, to use this mechanism, what we're going to do is we're going to pull the piece of rubber over the top, and we're going to slide it down here onto the little catch assembly right there. Now once that's done, did I get glue in something? I think I did. Alright, that happened a little too quickly, so let me pull it back here again. We're going to put the rubber down onto our sear right here. Now, when I press this trigger, and it's a very light trigger, when I press that trigger, it's going to send that guide up and the rubber comes off. Now, let's zoom out a little bit here. So what we're going to do again, so that we can demonstrate this with a glider on board, and by the way, you want to point this in a safe direction when you're doing this, because you treat this just like it were any other mechanism that can shoot something a distance. And I'm messing up because I'm trying to talk while I'm doing this. What's important is this is now effectively armed. And now what I'm going to be doing is putting a projectile on it. This is no different from any other elastic launch glider drill, except in this case, now we have this position, it's armed. I can take my hands off of it, but I have to pay attention that it can still release the glider just as it normally would. So, I'm going to turn you around here and try to not knock the camera over. Alright, so I've positioned this correctly. Now I'm just launching level. I'm pointed across the room. I have tension on here. And again, I have slotted the nose of the airplane in between the two strands of rubber right here. You can do this with any manufacturer's glider. At this point now, I simply press the trigger, and in that case, that was way too much tension on that glider, and it wasn't real happy. So I'll go get one that is. Okay, so I'm back with this glider fixed, and I've adjusted the length of pull here. So we're now at, what is that, 13 and 3/8 inches roughly. So again, I've looped the rubber band on. I'm now going to load my plane in place. And I'm going to notch it in. And now, when I point this and press the trigger, off my glider goes and bangs into the ceiling fan. So, that's the completed process for using this. We'll do some videos on trimming gliders where we'll show the angles and whatnot. However, that's the basic operation of this mechanism. Now, when you buy it, this little guy right here, because we're still tuning the size of that sear, it'll be larger, so it'll be easier for you to use. But this is the assembly and operation will not change. This is a proven mechanism, and it works. And of course, if you're just buying the part that's got the handle and the protractors, that's obviously much easier. So, with that, I'm Josh Finn. This has been the build video for the J&H Aerospace glider launcher, and ask that you put any questions, comments in the comments section below, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm Josh Finn. This is Hope. We are J&H Aerospace.
If you like this video, hit the like button.
Also, how about subscribe to our channel and check out jhaerospace.com for new free flight products and all of the tooling that you'll need to build them.
Thanks for watching.